Okay, let me get this off of here. No slides. Open up your Bibles to Genesis chapter 33. Genesis 33. We're going to work through 33 and 34 this evening. I was going to kind of blow through chapter 33, but we got a little extra time. We're not going to read through it, though, but we will read through chapter 34. In chapter 33, this is after Jacob had wrestled with the angel. He crossed over that stream, minor river, and began to make his way. And as he is going, he lifts his eyes. It opens up there, and he sees Esau coming and the 400 of his men coming. So that's got to be a little nerve-wracking. But as I think the previous chapter showed a change, a transition, you could say. He's for Jacob. He's also given a new name. And so when he sees them coming, he divides up his children, and along with his wives, he divides them up by his favorites. So he puts the two concubines out front with their children, Leah with her children in the middle, and then, of course, Rachel and Joseph at the end. But he then takes the lead and goes out in front of them, walking his way toward Esau. And as Esau seeing him coming, Jacob begins to prostrate himself, bowing down to the dirt 7 times. Now, we have this, Armene letters is from that time and from that region, and he talks about people who enter in to see a king, or when they leave a king, they prostrate themselves 7 times as they go in and out. Now, I don't think that's what Jacob had in mind, but he definitely is showing great respect toward Esau by doing this. Remember, he's worried that his brother is coming to kill him. Of course, he's bringing 400 men, so he doesn't have a good, intentions, it seems. So he sent those gifts prior. Now he's coming. He's bowing himself 7 times as he is approaching. And in verse 4, it tells us that Esau runs up to meet him, embraces him, falls on his neck, and kisses him. And then they both weep. And I think they weep because they both come to a realization that everything is okay. Jacob was assuming it was going to go poorly. I think Esau was thinking the same thing, that there was going to be a fight. And after everything that had occurred on his way up, and then seeing Jacob on his way, I think they recognized together that this is not going to turn out the way they thought it would, and it turned out for the best. And so after they hug each other, Esau asks, who are these who are with you? And he begins to introduce his family one at a time. And as they come up, they also bow down. And we're not reading it, but throughout there, Jacob calls Esau my Lord, and he calls himself your servant. And so he's really placing great emphasis onto Esau that he's in charge here. He's the older brother. He's the Lord. And Jacob's the servant. He sent the gifts. He bowed down toward him 7 times. He's trying really hard to be what? Peaceable. And how is he described to us at the very beginning when we were introduced to him after he's born? He's a man who is... Okay, but that was when he was born, but when he grew up, he's called a peaceable man. He's a peaceable man. And he really wants that. I don't think he ever wanted these bad things to happen, although he did cause some of them. But he's trying to really hard, I see, to be a peaceable person. And really going out of his way to make up things with Esau. And then Esau asks, after meeting the family, what is this I have been getting? All these caravans coming to him. What is this all about? And I do want to read what Jacob says to him. Okay, so in verse 8, when Esau says, what do you mean by all this company which I have met? And Jacob said, to find favor in the sight of my Lord. Now, he didn't lie. He didn't make up some other reason. That's exactly it. I wanted to find favor. That word in the Hebrew there for favor is he wants to cover the face of Esau. And that's not a bad thing, but what he means there is he wants to blind Esau from all the bad he's done to him with these gifts he's presenting to him. And of course, Esau, in proper custom fashion, rejects the gifts. He doesn't really want to reject the gifts, but that's what you do customarily. So he rejects the gifts. Of course, Jacob implores him to take it, and then at the end of verse 11, he took it. And then verses 12 to 14, Esau encourages Jacob, won't you come with me down south to Seir? I didn't put a map up. I think we all know. Where does Esau live? Edom. He lives down way south in Edom. So he said, won't you come on down to Seir with me? We don't really know where that is, assuming it's down in Edom. Jacob says, I can't go with you because of all the animals and the children. You know, they're slow, and we don't want to hold you up. And he said, well, let me leave some men with you, to probably as a guard for him to go down. He said, no, you take them with you. Now, the thing I found strange about that is, now Esau just received, about 150 livestock. Is he going to be moving faster than Jacob with his livestock? No, he can't. He's got to move them at the same pace Jacob's got to move his livestock. So, huh?
How far ahead were they?
Well, yeah, but I guess you could say that he saw the livestock and then just sent them on their way down to his place. That's a possibility, perhaps. But it seems to me that he would hold on to them, but maybe not. Maybe he sent them on their way.
I mean, if he's living with 400 people, he's going to have supplies. So he may not need the livestock to sustain them. So I can see sending them on.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, he could have just sent them on, so he could have left without too much trouble. All right. That's a good thought. Good thought. And so then, so he finally agrees. Esau leaves to go south down to Edom, very far south. And here's what Jacob says. Look at verse 14. Please let my Lord pass on before his servant, and I will proceed at my leisure according to the pace of the cattle that are before me and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord at Seir. So what did he tell? Where's Jacob going? He's going down there with Esau, right, to Seir. It's not a trick question, but he's told him where he's going. I'm going to go meet you down there at Seir.
Except I'm not really.
Yeah, he lied. Verse 15. Then he tries to encourage him to take some men with him. Verse 18, after Esau leaves, verse 17, Jacob journeyed, so Esau left, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth, that's to the west of where they're at, and built for himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore, the place is named Succoth. Now, that's over there near Shechem, so that's nowhere near Seir. So, Seir, you had to go straight south to get where Esau was, pretty far, and he just went straight over from there and did not follow Esau. So he lied. My guess is, I'm glad you're glad to see me, Esau, but I don't trust you. And I'm not going to Edom. And at first, if it wasn't for the fact that he told him he was going to go down there, I would have just assumed, well, he wants to stay in Canaan, the land of promise to Israel that God gave to him. That's why he wants to stay there. But he lied to Esau. It makes me feel like he's not quite confident that Esau is fully, come around to his side or his way of thinking. And he doesn't want to maybe combine together and really be his servant as he was making out to be in that whole procession.
And I'll go back to last week. I don't think his faith is big enough. But one of the interesting things when Esau says, who are those people? These are the children the Lord has graciously given me. So I said, okay, maybe Chris was right. Maybe he's gone. And now all of a sudden it's like, no, going this way.
He's still a human. He's still a long way far along than he was before in his walk with the Lord. He has a lot more trust for the Lord than when he did from the beginning. He's not perfect. I've never said that. But he definitely does have mistakes, and this isn't the last one he's going to make.
Well, and also what's interesting is he was there long enough to build a house and stables.
Right, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, how much time has passed, and we'll see that because of the age of...
He's not like Esau sent somebody said, dude, where are you?
He's probably thankful he didn't come.
It's kind of like this game they're playing.
But they have to be nice.
Act like they want each other. It's like you're telling somebody, well, why don't you come over and stay at my house tonight, hoping that they turn you down.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it, Larry. If you're online, Larry was saying it's kind of like when people invite you to come over and stay at your house, when really you don't want them to stay there and hope that they reject it. And that's kind of probably what's happening here. Like Larry said, it's kind of like this game they're playing, just being nice, but they really don't want to be around one another, which makes sense considering their history. Even though they're making up and they're glad to see each other, there's consequences to actions, and they don't like each other so much. But Jacob did give the gifts. He bowed down before his brother, called him his Lord, and definitely is sorry for the things he had done. I like what Larry had to say on that.
They didn't have anything in common.
No, they don't have anything. They don't even look alike.
But even as children, they didn't have anything.
No, very, very different, and that's true. Gail was saying how different they are. They don't have much in common, so it's not a surprise that they would go their separate ways. So Jacob heads over there to Shechem, pitches his tent there, verse 19, then verse 20. Then he erected there an altar and called it El Elohi Israel, which simply means God, the God of Israel. And I think he's showing, he's doing something he hasn't quite done before. He's making an altar. He wasn't requested to it, but it's an altar to the Lord. He is thankful for all the blessings the Lord has given him, and he's come back to the land of promise, and he's thankful for that. Now, any comments or questions on chapter 33? All right. We'll read verse 1 of chapter 34, and then I want to talk about how much time's gone by. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had borne to Jacob, went out to visit the daughters of the land. Based on when she was born, in chapter 34, Joseph is 17 years old. I'm guessing that since they've entered back into the land of Canaan, about 10 years has passed. She's going to be around 14 years old. She's got to be old enough to be attractive to somebody and to be childbearing, marriageable age. I'm putting her around 14, 15 years old. We know some time's going to pass before we get over to chapter 34. Not much, because Joseph will be 17, and he is younger than she is. And so I'm guessing here about 14 years old.
He's younger than she is?
I think so, isn't she? Yeah, isn't he?
So if he's 17 and she's 14, how does that work?
No, over in chapter 34, that's a ways away.
Okay.
A lot of time's going to pass before we get over there to chapter 34.
We're in 34.
I'm sorry, did I say 30? Not 34. What was it? 37. My fault. 'Cause he's not even mentioned in 34. But anyway, so she's about 14, and Jacob knows how the customs are in this land. There is no way he would let her go anywhere by herself. No way. It's pretty clear for probably a couple of centuries, the people of the land had a thing where if a young woman was walking around by herself, men, not always, but were likely to take advantage of her. And princes of the land or kings had a legal right to take them and bed them in that manner. And that's going to happen here in verse 2. When the Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her by force. So he raped her, is what happened. He was, verse 33, deeply attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke tenderly to her. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young girl for a wife." Now Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter, but his sons were with the livestock in the field. So Jacob kept silent until they came in. Then Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to speak with him. Now the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it. And the men were grieved, and they were very angry because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, for such a thing ought not to be done. They're ending there at verse 7. Okay, so got to get to the right notes there. So he forces his way upon this poor girl. Of course, he becomes attracted to her. He likes her. He speaks tenderly to her, probably trying to woo her over now at this point to be his wife. And he tells his dad, I want her, do something about this. I go talk to Jacob because the custom is to the parents arrange the marriages. So he wants to say, arrange a marriage for me. Now, the text doesn't say it here, but later on we'll find out that Dinah doesn't actually leave his house. They don't let her leave. Because when they come in there and kill everyone, she's still there. So I think she's being held hostage against her will there in the home. And that also may account for possibly the reaction that Jacob has when they come to talk to him. Because they don't bring her along. She's still back in the city. And he's not going to say much. I think he's worried about how am I going to get her back without them killing her. And so they come, verse 8. Oh, wait, before I get to that, I want to mention something here about the brothers. When they were thinking, it was explaining how they were feeling there in verse 7. They were very angry because he, that's Shechem, had done a disgraceful thing in Israel. Anyone's translation say something different than in Israel? The Hebrew word can be translated as against Israel, and some think it ought to be, but the grammar of the Hebrew suggests it should be in Israel. That's a strange way to think about things, but I think it's enlightening to us about the mindset of Jacob's sons. I think they know about the land promise. They know that they are going to be the great nation God had promised. And I think in their mind, all the land is already there. So what they did in Shechem to their sister was done in Israel. And so that's disgraceful. In their minds, it's already their land, I think. And we'll see that play out as we continue to move throughout the chapter. So verse 8 to 12, Hamor spoke with them. Who's the them? That's Jacob and his sons, saying, the soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him in marriage. Intermarry with us, give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. Thus you shall live with us, and the land shall be open before you. Live and trade in it, and acquire property in it. Shechem also said to her father and to her brothers, if I find favor in your sight, then I will give whatever you say to me. Ask me ever so much bridal payment and gift, and I will give according as you say to me. But give me the girl in marriage. So, a couple of things I want to point out. First, notice what they say and what do they not say. What did they not say? They didn't talk about anything about rape or how he forced them. In their mind, that's okay. That's normal. There was nothing morally wrong in their minds with what he did. Didn't even mention it. So there's that. And the next thing I want to point out is, even though the Mosaic Law hasn't come, under the Mosaic Law, do you remember when we went over this, what happens to a person who rapes a girl or takes advantage of a virgin? Okay. Is there a way out of it? Yeah, if they pay the father whatever price and they marry her. That's the way out of it. And they live and they marry the girl. Now, they're not obviously under the law, but look what they're doing. They're willing to pay what price? Anything. And he's going to marry her. Doesn't make it right what he did. I'm not saying, I'm just pointing that out. But I also think it's interesting that they don't even bring up what had happened. They just let it be. Verses 13 to 17. But Jacob's sons answered, not Jacob, Jacob's sons, and answered Shechem and his father Hamor with deceit, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. They said to them, "We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a disgrace to us. Only on this condition will we consent to you, if you will become like us in that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters for ourselves. And we will live with you and become one people. But if you will not listen to us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and go." A lot of interesting things in that what's going on here. What do you think about the way they're talking about circumcision and offering them to be circumcised? We know they're doing it in deceit. But think about what they're really saying. If you didn't know they were being deceitful and you heard them make this offer, are they treating circumcision the way it ought to be treated? Very disgraceful, very dishonorable. If Jacob heard that, do you think he would know something's amiss and wrong, or he may have spoken up? I think he would have. I think he would have known that his sons were up to something. I think they spoke because he retired for the night. I don't think he's there. That's my supposition, because the text doesn't say that. But later on, when he finds out that they kill everyone in the city, he is angry with them. Well, there's a pretty good sign right here they're up to something. I don't think he's there. And if he is there, then he is just, I don't know, not paying attention or not understanding. I'm not sure. But in my mind, based on what we read later on in the text, maybe he's not there. And why would the son speak up for him? I think he probably left it to the brothers to take care of and the daughter, and he left the room. I don't know. I find that difficult and interesting, the way this plays out. And also they used some commentators make a big deal out of the fact they use a singular, "We'll take our daughter and go," in reference to Dinah. But this is also in reference to, you want to intermarry with us and us for marry your daughter. Well, you know what? If you don't get circumcised, that's not going to happen at all. And you can't marry her. I think they're just keeping the context of that. I don't think it's any big deal that they use the term daughter doesn't mean anything.
Notice that, at least what I'm seeing, they think they can take her in. So why don't they?
Who?
Brothers.
They can take her. Well, I think they're playing along with the game. I don't think they're seeing this the way maybe Jacob sees this. But who knows? Maybe because Jacob doesn't want to create trouble. We'll see that at the end. But if they try to take them now, there will be a lot of losses on their side. If they get them to get circumcised, they're easy pickings. And I think they've already hatched the plan. They already know what they're going to do. They want to just kill them all. I don't think this was, let's just make them get circumcised. And then, oh, hey, let's go kill them. I think they planned this out. They know exactly what they're doing, and it's premeditated murder is what they're going to do. And so they make that. Now, if you think about it, is that a fair trade? You can marry her, but everyone in your city has to get circumcised? That's going to be a hard sell. That's going to be a hard sell. So how are they going to sell this? Well, let's keep reading verses 18 and following. Now their words seemed reasonable to Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And I want to explain to you why I think they believe it is reasonable here in a moment. The young man did not delay to do the thing because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. Now that line there at the end is given to us to explain why he and his father go to the gate to talk to the people, because the people really like Shechem, the prince. Verse 20. So Hamor and his son Shechem came to the gate of their city and spoke to the men of their city, saying, "These men are friendly with us. Therefore, let us live in the land and trade in it. For behold, the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters in marriage and give our daughters to them. Only on this condition will the men consent to us to live consent to us to live with us, to become one people, that every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. And here's what Haman is thinking in his mind, the king. Verse 23. Will not their livestock and their property and all their animals be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will live with us. In his mind, he's thinking, we're going to intermarry with them, and all that's theirs, which I think is probably more than what they have in the city, all that economy is going to come in here. He's thinking politically, economically. Of course, the son his heart wants the girl, but the dad is seeing the bigger picture here. He's going to politically, economically, this is going to make him powerful if he can get all of Jacob's family into the city. Good stuff. It almost makes you think of Sodom and Gomorrah with Lot, doesn't it? He moved too close to the city. And Hamor got that in his mind, verse 23, verse 24. All who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and to his son Shechem, and every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city. So they all agreed. Great idea. I think they see a lot of profit in this. And what did they neglect to tell the people of the city? Again, it's the same thing. Listen to what they say and what they don't say. Not a word was said about Shechem wanting to marry a girl. This is all about him getting to marry a girl. No, but this is all about us getting all that livestock and all that they have into this city, guys. Think about what we're going to become once we move them in. Remember, they've probably been here for about 10 years now. They know what all Jacob has. And so he's got a lot. So they're eager to do it. And this isn't anything to be eager about. So verse 25. Now it came about on the third day when they were in pain. All right, let's stop there for a second. So obviously they're in pain. The third day is probably the worst. Chances are quite a few of the men have fevers because, it's not like they had antiseptics or anything. They keep it clean. They're probably using the same instrument. They were doing this at the gate of the city as people were coming and going. Nothing's going well for them on this day. That two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, each took his sword and came upon the city unawares and killed every male. Now, that is her full-blooded brothers. There's several of them because she comes from Leah. So they came. I think that is true, that only these two brothers, the rest of their brothers probably stayed behind, although I think they're in agreement with this. But I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't think they did it by themselves. I'm sure they brought their servants and others to come in and just go through and kill. But they are the instigators of it. That's why they're named. They're the ones that are leading this. They're in charge. And they're going through and they kill everyone. The text tells us there in verse 26, they killed Hamor and his son Shechem with the edge of the sword. And there's their sister. They took Dinah from Shechem's house and went forth. Verse 27, Jacob's sons. So here's all the sons. Jacob's sons came upon the slain and looted the city because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds and their donkeys, that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and they captured and looted all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives, even all that was in the houses. They took everything. They took it all. Verse 30. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me odious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and my men being few in number. They will gather together against me and attack me, and I will be destroyed, I and my household. But they said, should he treat our sister as a harlot? All right, so let's look at those few verses. Pretty clear what happened in the city. They killed everyone, and they took everything. All the sons were engaged in that. But Jacob found out who did this, Simeon and Levi, and he gets on it. He gets angry with them. You brought this trouble upon him. And that trouble upon me, what he's saying is not just I think with all the people, the inhabitants, but everything that's going on, because what they did was murder. Now, if they had just killed Shechem, they may have been able to get away with that. But who else did they kill? Everyone. Did they have any authority to do that? Not from Jacob and not from God. If you're thinking about it, I see it, wheels are turning. But there's no authority to do that. And we're going to see in the next chapter, God's going to have Jacob move away from that area. Go ahead.
Are they specifically condemned for it?
Well, there's a lot of things that people are not specifically condemned for. When the one judge was coming back to his house, and he says, the first thing that comes out of my house, I will sacrifice to the Lord. And it was his daughter. That was a foolish thing to do and a sin, but that was not God. He wasn't specifically condemned for it, but we know he was wrong. There are several things in the Bible that aren't specifically condemned, but we can know by looking at the word of if it was a condemnable action. This was, and we know it will be condemned because even though they got the last word here in chapter 34, who gets the last word ultimately? Jacob does when he's on his deathbed, and because Reuben, we know Reuben will lose his top spot. The next one would be Simeon, then Levi, and they're going to lose it because of what they did. And Judah is going to get the blessing. And God will approve that and give it to him.
Reuben did something similar.
Yeah, he slept with one of Jacob's concubines.
Family.
Simeon did this, and then he wanted to kill Joseph.
Say again?
Simeon killed these guys, and then he wanted to kill Joseph too, but Reuben saved Joseph.
That's right.
Simeon's kind
Then these guys have problems. He's all about just taking people out. And but once you start doing it, it just comes. That's the answer to all your problems. This guy offends me, I'm going to kill him. It makes you think of what's that guy's name from the book of Genesis? Cain killed. Cain will be avenged 7 times, and what was his name? Now I got to look it up.
Laban, I believe.
I think it was Laban, yeah. And Laban will be.
Different Laban.
Now I got to look it up.
So you don't want to name your children.
Lamech.
Oh, Laban, okay.
Oh, you wives of Lamech, give heed to my speech, for I have killed a man for wounding me and a boy for striking me. If Cain is avenged 7-fold, then Lamech 77-fold. Same thing. He'll just kill anybody if it gets in his way. And Simeon seems to have that same kind of attitude, doesn't he? And but yeah, look at Jacob calls on them like, look what you've done, all the trouble you brought upon me, and look at their response. Should he treat our sister as a harlot? That was their response. So you killed everyone.
All the men.
Oh, okay, all the men.
They took the women and all
Okay.
the slaves, but they're still alive.
Yeah, so they killed all the men. How is that going to look among all the inhabitants? Bad. They're going to come kill you. They're all going to gather together to come take you out. Jacob's right.
I think that would give them pause, but okay.
Well, they're not that big yet. They're not big enough to take on everybody.
It just needs to send a rider down to his brother.
Well, we know in chapter 35, right off the bat, God said to Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and live there. And then, I have mentioned this in the past, thinking that it was just with Jacob's family and possibly for Rachel to get rid of her idols when he tells everyone, put away your foreign idols, and he takes them and puts them under the oak before they go. Well, he's got all this new people from the city now. That's probably meant for them, because now they've brought all these other people. Get rid of those foreign gods. He takes them, puts them under the oak tree, and then they go to Bethel. And so maybe that's because of all these new people they've added to the group. But God sends them away from the area. And I think the only reason he would probably do that is because the trouble that is now brewing for Jacob and his family.
But until they end up in Egypt, they're not, again, I haven't read that far ahead. They're not attacked.
No, but they leave the area. So I don't know. And sure, God would intervene too, but I just don't see any way that Simeon and Levi can be justified in what they did. They didn't inquire of the Lord. They didn't get word from the Lord. They did it behind their father's back. Everything they did was for selfish reasons and not anything else. It's what they wanted. Even if it was the right thing to do, it still would make it wrong because they did it for selfish reasons. But I don't think it was the right thing.
I thought I was a messed up family.
Well, this isn't going to be the last problem they're going to run into.
I'm not sure it applies specifically, but I was just thinking about Simeon and the killing. Bring that all forward to the time of Christ and to the time of the early church when they were trying to spread the gospel. What was the attitude of the Jews? If someone disagreed with them, what was their first choice?
Well, kill them, stone them,
Kill them.
drag them out of the city, tear your clothes, and make it look as righteous as you can. Yeah, that's right. Then that's what they would do. We can't defeat Paul's arguments. We'll just defeat him with a stone.
No, but part of it is, I would maintain, part of it's baked into the law. If they're blaspheming, you kill blasphemers. So, I'm not saying it's a good excuse, but I can see the illogical leap. Paul certainly wasn't blaspheming. They just didn't like what he said.
No. No.
Actually, some of those people were blaspheming against Christ, but it was righteous for them to go and Pharisees.
Yep. We're talking about with Paul and the Jews and the blaspheming that the Jews would say against Christ, and then directing that toward Paul as him being a blasphemer, and that's why they were stoning him, while they should have been stoned for the very acts they were blaming Paul for. I'm just doing that for the benefit of those who are online. But interesting couple of chapters and difficult things, and poor Dina there, caught up on all that. She shouldn't have been out and about. I think she did that without her parents not knowing what she was doing, because she was out there by herself, and she should not have been doing that. That's for sure. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll have the closing song.